Over the past few weeks, we've been walking through courage in unresolved seasons, what it looks like to stay open, to trust God one step at a time, even when the story isn't finished. Today, we're stepping into something that can feel surprisingly difficult for many parents: joy. Because after long seasons of pain, many parents don't just struggle with grief, they struggle with allowing themselves to feel joy again. It can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, and sometimes it feels wrong. So today we're talking about what it looks like to rebuild joy without betraying the pain. Hi, welcome to Still Faithful, a Bridge Between Us podcast series for parents walking hard, unresolved parenting journeys. I'm your host and in the trenches partner, Melinda Patrick. This is a space for honesty without shame, faith without pressure, and movement without forcing outcomes. Together, we're learning what it looks like to stay spiritually anchored, emotionally steady, and rooted in love, even when parenting hurts and the story isn't finished. In painful parenting seasons, joy doesn't always come easily, but even when it does, it can come with hesitation. You may find yourself thinking, how can I feel joy when my child is struggling? How can I enjoy this moment when things are still unresolved? Does this mean I'm moving on or forgetting? So instead of receiving joy, many parents hold it at a distance, not because they don't want it, but because they don't know if they're allowed to have it. One of the most important truths in this season is this: joy and grief can exist at the same time. You can love your child deeply and still feel the ache of what is unresolved. And at the same time, you can laugh, you can rest, you can experience moments of lightness. These things do not cancel out each other. Grief does not disqualify joy, and joy does not diminish grief. They often walk side by side. Many parents carry a quiet guilt when joy begins to return. It can feel like, if I feel better, does that mean I care less? If I enjoy life, am I ignoring what matters? But here is the truth. Your joy is not a betrayal of your child. Your joy is not evidence that the pain didn't matter. Your joy is part of how God restores you. In fact, joy often strengthens your capacity to love well. It steadies your heart, softens your spirit, and reminds you that your life is not defined only by what is hard. Sometimes we forget this. God delights in his children, not just when we're strong, not just when we're faithful, but when we are alive, when we laugh, when we rest, when we experience goodness. Your joy is not something God tolerates, it's something he welcomes, even in difficult seasons. Joy in this season may not look like what it used to. It might be quieter, simpler, more subtle. It might look like a peaceful moment in the morning, a conversation that feels easy, a walk outside, a moment of laughter you didn't expect. Joy doesn't have to be big to be real, and it doesn't have to replace the pain to matter. Take a moment, let's slow down, and consider these questions, and I'll put them in the show notes. Where do I feel guilty enjoying life? What brings me joy right now? Not before, not someday, but right now. How might joy actually strengthen my faith in this season? That's a really good question. Sit with these questions and ask the Holy Spirit to open your eyes to see where he's at work. If joy has felt distant or complicated, you're not alone. And if it begins to return, which I believe it will, even in small ways, you're allowed to receive it. Joy doesn't mean the pain didn't matter. It means God is still present. Before we close today, I want to share something with you, because if anything you've heard has resonated, you don't have to navigate this alone. There's a place where you can be encouraged, equipped, and surrounded by people who understand this journey. On June 12th and 13th, 2026, Restored Hope Network is hosting the Hope Conference in Colorado Springs at Focus on the Family. This is more than just an event. It's a space for individuals, parents, and ministry leaders to find clarity, community, and Christ-centered direction in the middle of real-life questions. We would love for you to be there. I'll put the link in the show notes so you can learn more and possibly register. And if the Bridge Between Us podcast has encouraged you in any way, would you share this episode with a friend or even your pastor? Because here's something most people don't realize. A lot of pastors are actively looking for biblically aligned, trustworthy resources to support the people in their churches. Your share could be the exact connection someone has been praying for. Friend, you are not alone in this, and there is hope. God has entrusted this journey to you, and He's entrusted your child to you. As you continue walking with Him in both grief and joy, He will be faithful to equip you for each next step. I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bridge Between Us podcast with Melinda Patrick. To find out more, go to melindapatrick.org. Once you're there, you can check out the many resources that Melinda has available. Also, you can book Melinda for your next speaking engagement. Just click on the speaking tab at the top of the page for more information. All of this can be found at melindapatrick.org. Thank you for listening in today. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of The Bridge Between Us with Melinda Patrick.